Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Take two. We had an interruption from a dark entity that started to get the dogs barking because both of these dogs can see into the other side. And really, the quote-unquote veil is very thin at this point in time. Many of you guys might be starting to see things out of the corner of your eye that you might think, oh, well, that was nothing. Maybe I got a floater, floaters, etc. Maybe that was just, I don't know, maybe there's something blowing in the wind, or maybe it wasn't.
I think it's our pets who are really, really picking up on stuff. And then, yes, we might see little glimpses and have little moments of perception where we think something might be somewhere. But really, it's our pets, I think, that are moving into that lower fourth dimension quicker than we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So please do subscribe both channels, Evolutionary Energy Arts and EEARTS. Make sure you get that little bell clicked. Hopefully you guys will get some notifications. Each has unique videos going up daily. And Bill Gates on LSD, yes, he admitted to it. He did. He admitted to it. We were watching this video where he was getting questioned, and this was back in 1998. And you could see a lot about the energy given off by him, and this darkness that was kind of surrounding him in this interview. This is one of the things that we're going to be able to see. This is one of the things that's going to tear away the veil, so to speak. The wizard behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz, use that terminology, is going to be completely exposed. And for many people, it has already been totally exposed. And we know really what's going on, but we have to wake up as many as possible. So this was a Playboy interview, and they asked him, did you ever take LSD? Oh, my errant youth ended a long time ago. What does that mean? That means there were things I did under the age of 25 that I ended up not doing subsequently. So Playboy said, one LSD story involved you staring at a table and thinking the corner was going to plunge in your eye, and he just smiled. Ah, glimmer of recognition. That was on the other side of that boundary. So he claims that his psychedelic use ended long ago. Those psychedelics are gateways. They are gateways to other densities. And depending on where you are vibrating, they could be heaven or they could be hell. And again, we personally would not recommend really anything other than really meditation, yoga, and Qigong. You could do everything that could be done with substances if you had the patience to develop a practice. You could go anywhere. You can visit other worlds through just meditation and learning some breathing techniques.
Right, and it's safe too. I think that's the number one thing to promote here is the safety of that mechanism, because spirituality and working in the other realms, it does have its consequences. We don't know everything that there is to know, so we make sure we always stay in our heart center and make sure we feel that expansion in the heart chakra. And you and I have been doing it for a very long time, but that's something that takes time to develop. Now, we do have others who have gone into these realms, into the lower fourth, and I was just getting information on Gil Bates today. And it was him, and we're going to be talking about John Dean, and we're going to be talking about Allister Crowley.
Yeah, exactly. I want to go into that because we've actually had, we've been able to channel information from Allister and from John D. And, these are both beings, Allister and John D. And we'll just give you a brief history of them in a moment. That have some regrets about how they handled things now that they're on the other side. So Cindy was looking here at Gil Bates, and one of the things that she got the other week was that he's in really, I wouldn't say necessarily constant communication, but he's in communication with these entities very, very frequently.
He is, and what he has done is a long time ago is he's opened these portals to make connections and contact with these other beings, and actually providing them with a form of food that we call loosh, and that's a form of human energy that's made up of anxiety and fear and anger that these entities feed off of. And he's made direct communication with them as far as opening a portal and communing with them in many ways. I mean, it's just something that keeps happening with certain beings that come here on Earth.
Yeah, those desires of the egoic nature tend to lead down a darker path. When we are truly putting the whole first, then it tends to lead us upwards, just to make it simple. And when we pursue things of an egoic nature, like power, control, riches, wealth, just basically giving into all our passions in a negative sense, then it tends to spiral us down where these beings that truly are bottom dwellers, right? Because where we are is right now we're on the threshold of 3D, 4D. We're right on that that step where you're going to be going from one density into another. Now, when you first step into 4D, that's the lower 4D, that's the lower astral realm. That's where the hells are, so to speak. That's where these nasty ticks and leeches, these blood-sucking, energy-sucking entities reside. So as we look at things as a pyramidal structure here on Earth, the top of the pyramid here on Earth is really the bottom of 4D. It's the bottom. It's the bottom of the barrel. And so these people that think of themselves as elite power brokers, well, they're really people that are licking the scum off the bottom of the barrel in all reality.
And they might do a lot of things that give them their material wealth here on Earth, but there's something more involved with that you're giving up, that I think he doesn't believe that it's going to happen to him, or that it can happen to him. I think he believes he's bigger than that, he's stronger than that, and that there's no consequences because he is who he is. But that's another illusion that a lot of people face when they're wanting to keep their material goods.
Absolutely. So here is an infamous picture of Allister Crowley. You see the little triangle or pyramid, the all-seeing eye, and Allister was quite a character. He takes his studies seriously. He still does. On the other side right now, he is in fourth density, still in the astral. He has not reincarnated yet. He's still doing his studies every day, wouldn't you say?
He's doing them and then redoing them. He has a lot of work that he needs to do if he wants to come back and recreate a system that is going to be advantageous for all. He is over there. He does have regrets as far as the way he handled things and the beings that he contacted. And there's karma involved with that. And right now he is making things right when it comes to where he's at on the lower fourth, because it's not very comfortable over there.
Yeah, and so kind of working the way up and out of the muck and the mire. And, he lived a very colorful life. Some say that he was actually the original James Bond in so many ways, as he was thought to be a spy, and then a counteragent, double spy, triple spy. Don't really know, and we never actually even asked him. Does he have anything to say about that as far as, espionage and everything?
He was observed quite a lot. He could do things that were really like people wouldn't necessarily believe it unless they saw it. So I'm not getting that he did work for our government, but I am getting that he was observed in doing the work that he was doing, and it is written down about the things that he could manifest right there in the open. So he was definitely someone who was studied.
Yeah, and so some of the thoughts were that he was, basically an agent for the Queen, and then maybe an agent for the for basically the enemy, so to speak, during the war and all. And again, we're talking about the Austrian-Hungary Empire. We're talking about Germany. There was a different power structure back in those days. And he was definitely somebody that gallivanted all over the world. And he did a lot of traveling. He did a lot of experimentation. He also, like Gil Bates, opened the door many times to other realms. And he, as you see here, the book of the law, and one of his famous quotes is, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." Basically, do whatever you want. As long as it harms none, go ahead and do whatever you want. If you're harming yourself, that's a different, story. But what he did too was open up these gates, and he ended up connecting to a being called Aiwass. He also said that his reference for the Bible, because he grew up in a very, very fundamentalist household, he called it the Book of Lies, because he picked up on the inconsistency in the Bible. And then he even referred to himself as the beast, the Antichrist, and took kind of glee in that. And so he contacted this being that you see the sketch of the being here, Aiwass, which ends up turning out to be more of a gray alien.
Yes, more of a entity that can do things. I mean, we might call them something like jinn, that they can do things. They're very powerful on the other side. And both of these men had abilities that were out of this world that you wouldn't really believe. And that's why it was written down, and they are observed doing some of the rituals that they were doing, and manifesting some of the beings that they manifested. And he manifested these beings, and what they can do is they can work behind the veil. They can get things done for other people. So this was of great interest to our country.
Well, yeah, and also to England and all of them involved in the war. So again, when we open up these veils, and we're connecting to these other beings, if you do not have fully developed senses, you can easily be, swayed into thinking something might be a little bit benevolent, or it could be, I think it really is your ego that gets in the way, because there's everything has its telltale vibration and frequency, and you just know. I mean, at least from our experience, immediately. We've had contacts with all sorts of beings, and direct contact, so it's one of those cases where, we've experienced it firsthand. We've experienced grays. We've experienced the tall grays, the little grays. We've experienced the jinn. We have shared photos of a jinn that was captured on film that we saw in Mississippi that ended up slaughtering a whole bunch of goats, and it was really sad. But we've also felt the presence of reptilian entities. And then, of course, we feel on a daily basis, almost every single day, we feel the energy of the devas and our guides, which are, you can't even compare those energies. One of them, when you're talking about these energies, they make your flesh crawl. They make you feel nauseous. They are nasty. I mean, I don't know. It's just like it's like seeing a scene of something horrible, like war, and then seeing the scene of something beautiful. They just evoke different emotional responses. But again, if we are clouded, if we are taking certain substances, and, he did an awful lot of experimentation, Allister did, and I'm suspecting that many, many of the leaders of this world do a lot of experimentation. And, maybe we should say that some experimentation under certain circumstances, again, it could be up to the individual. We know that there's substances, like you can saute some mushrooms, right? Make a wonderful meal if it's, again, done at the right time, right place, right people, right circumstances. And there are many people that go down to Peru and other places to have an experience with a substance that starts with an A, and have amazing experiences that literally change everything for them, their perception. But it depends on where you're vibrating at. Depends on the individual. Yeah, absolutely. Once you open up these doors, there is this pathway that's created. And if the door that you open up is to the lower realms, there's a pathway that's created that these little things, these nasty bottom dwellers can get into your life and cause all sorts of havoc. So, Allister, very, very interesting guy. Again, so much has been written of him. And he, of course, started Thelema. He was part of the Golden Dawn and all, and did a lot of rituals. And one of the things that's fascinating is you see, like, a lot of the Golden Dawn rituals, again, they come out of the Abrahamic tradition. And again, when we look to John Dee, this is a picture of John Dee here, and Queen Elizabeth. John Dee was the court astrologer. He worked with Edgar Kelly, who was a gifted clairvoyant psychic, and they channeled something that was called basically the Enochian tablets. And again, John Dee is somebody else that now that he's on the other side, he has regrets because, the whole Enochian system of magic is one that I have studied, but I've never practiced because I wouldn't practice it because I could recognize it's not the highest. It's not of the best intent. And, again, you have to have that discernment, that you have to develop that discernment to know when something is going to lead you to benevolent entities or non-benevolent entities, malignant, as in malignant tumors, that can grow and fester on you. And so there are many books written on Enochian evocation, Enochian magic, and, you will have people defend them and say that they're, not bad at all. It's what you do with things. Well, everything is about what you do with things. It really, really is. It breaks down to your intent. But who are you going to call is the question. If you're calling greys and reptilians and other minions like the Jinn, you got to be expecting that you're just playing Russian roulette. It's just why would you? Truly, if you're going to do any sort of striving to contact beings, make sure they're benevolent. And so many people will say that to us. How do you know? Because they're of this fundamentalist mindset. Yet they don't have that perceptive ability developed. And because they're still believing the God of the Old Testament is the highest God. That's the highest God in the lower astral realm. And again, that's not even accurate because, these beings are just bottom dwellers and feeders that take advantage of anything they could, any being they can. They're like piranhas that just, a piece of flesh gets thrown in the midst of them. It's just a feeding frenzy.
Right. And it's really important to understand who and what you're connecting to. And as we sit here and we're just talking about these entities, if one were to choose to connect, you're opening a door, and that door might not be able to be closed so easily. So the things you want to look for is if you're feeling like I'm feeling a very undertoned, underlying kind of anger. And if I were to connect with that, then that's the information I would channel. But I'm very, very careful. I don't connect to these things. I don't want to hear what they have to say. I don't want any favors from them because they will suck from your soul, and they will make your soul very weak if you allow it.
Absolutely. So this is a PDF. Again, it's evocation. Evocation is bringing something to an area where you are, but you're not taking it in you. And it's all based on the Abrahamic tradition. Of course, there's a lot in there that's, hidden and all. And again, there are many people that will defend this. And while, the intentions might be good, again, if we're messing around with stuff that's not of the highest vibration, then, it really is a Russian roulette thing. When we look at the Ring of Solomon, we look at the Key of Solomon, and it talks about all these legions of demons that you can control. Why would you want to control any demons?
Right.
just get past them. Let them be way so far below you. They're never going to see you. You're never going to see them. Why would you want to even get close to that? And there's many rituals, like the Bornless ritual, and I've studied all this stuff for years, decades, actually, going back to my youth. And there's certain practices I did practice, and there's other ones that I avoided, like the plague. And the one thing that I grew surer and surer was that nothing that came out of the Abrahamic tradition did I trust, honestly. And avoid it like the plague, because I could see, where its roots are. And yes, there could be some good stuff hidden in there, but it's so covered over by the lower astral realm that, again, you're much better off searching for other avenues. Just develop your own. Just keep your heart at the highest place and point of love and peace, and working and striving towards the betterment of the all. Here you see a little woodcutting, King Solomon before the jinn. The jinn are nothing you want to be around. And again, you could break down Solomon and see the symbolism in there. Soul, Mun, sun, moon, right? There's so much more to this than meets the eye. But after all this studying I did of the Western mystery tradition, the more I realized I didn't want to have anything to do with it. Honestly, I just found that everything in the West just feels so damn corrupted. And honestly, it is corrupted, but, even in the East, there's that corruption too. And, it's because basically who rules this world? The adversary rules this world. That part's true. When you see, again, what do all these presidents swear on? They all swear on the same book. The most published book ever. You go in a hotel, any hotel, what you're likely to find in the drawer. And again, I think people get almost silly, with the cross is upside down and everything, and again, well, even the cross isn't really the symbol of Yeshua. It actually is, again, referencing Nibiru and the system that's in place. So all the presidents, put their hands on the Bible. And when we look at it, more than half the world is from the Abrahamic tradition. This is the dominant tradition, whether we're talking Islam or Christianity. Yes, there's a much smaller portion that are from the root, the Judaism. But again, everything is twisted, corrupted, distorted. So the good has been basically covered over to the degree where, you really have to go digging. I mean, there's some obvious things, but they're so obvious you could get them anywhere. Obvious truths. But really, who are they contacting? They're contacting these type of beings. And yes, when we talk about beings that, from our perspective in a lower density, appear to be able to shapeshift, and actually even people in human forms can give the illusion of a glamour to appear to shapeshift. I've seen it happen in person with people that were actually very well trained by, again, the same power structure. I've seen faces totally distort and change. These things, again, can be learned. But these beings, absolutely. These are the beings that the power structure on the planet is in contact with. The same beings that John Dee got his Enochian magic from. The same beings that, again, led Allister down, the wrong path as well. The same beings that are controlling Gil Bates and all the rest of this leadership. And we see representations of them. Now, again, there was a time when these beings appeared to be just as physical as we would appear to each other. And that time is coming again, because this planet's vibration is rising up, and the planet's raising up into the lower fourth density as we speak. And of course, the planet's going to move on to fifth density. But there is a time period where these beings appear just as physical as any of us would to each other. And so there's a remembrance of that, and there's many statues commemorating that. And then there's those people that have seen these beings because they've materialized for periods of time, perhaps in your bedroom, to do something, and then they'll dematerialize and move on up to their natural dimension, density. And so again, abductions, these have been ongoing since, recorded time. The power structure serves them. It serves them. It doesn't serve anything high. No, not really. It's serving the lower of the low.
I mean, and you can tell when your energies are connecting with these energies, or at least feeling them, it's like this underlying anger that is ever present. And if you give in to that, then at that point, yes, you are channeling that anger, you are channeling that energy. And I would want people to be sure, if they're feeling these anger, if they're feeling these emotions, to do everything you can do to pull yourself up and out of that. You don't want to connect to it because they will control you. And look what they're doing to our leadership. I mean, they're controlling them. This is, when we talk about puppets, this is what we mean. They have connected with these beings through various means and various ways, and now they control them. And mostly it's for material gain on this realm. And that's just something that's really not worth it to most of us.
And we can move some of these around as I didn't find anything that we totally agree with as far as like looking at the pyramidal structure, or even as far as, just describing a clearer picture of how the densities progress. And we'll do more of the blackboard talks or the whiteboard talks where we could do our own little diagrams for you guys. But when you reach John D., for instance, he's also like Allister, is that he's spending his time kind of clearing karma and working through what that life brought. And again, that was a long time ago. This is hundreds of years later, and he hasn't reincarnated.
No, he's not. There is a lot of karma to clear out, and these people were ultimately, they're the ones who chose to connect, but they didn't realize that there would be consequences beyond, certain limitations, but there are consequences beyond that, and they are working things out. Now, the plan is, when they do reincarnate, is to reincarnate in a different time, a different realm, so they can actually help humanity, move humanity up and into a higher density. That's the plan. And they have, these entities here have a hold of all of our leadership, and they're going to make people feel fear, anger, so that they can feed off of it. This is a very real thing, and that's why we have to be in our heart chakra and make sure we don't stoop to those lows and make ourselves able to be controlled.
Absolutely. So, when you think about that, there's big ramifications for these negative karmas, and many times it might take hundreds and hundreds of years to work this off to where you could start moving forward. Again, we have to learn our lessons, but it doesn't mean also that you cannot get off that path and go back on the side of light and trying to help humanity. Quite the opposite. We can always correct mistakes. We can always move forward. But if our faith is in anything here on this planet that is about this power structure, this whole power structure, again, is the power structure of bottom dwellers, parasites, just nasty, low-level beings that do not have the highest good in mind for anybody. So why would we really be surprised at what's happening with seeing all these poor young people dropping, athletes dropping? We shouldn't be surprised if we really understood what was going on here. Because, again, the structure is such that they want to keep control at any cost. And they don't care. They really don't care about the greater good. They're not in service to others.
Well, yeah, the greater good is to them. And as long as they're comfortable here on this realm, they think that there's not going to be the same consequences when they pass over. But what I am getting and receiving is that it weakens the soul. It weakens the soul to the point where you have to rebuild if you're going to stay on this path. You have to rebuild when you do shed this body. You have to rebuild for a very long time.
Absolutely. Again, so keep those vibes high, guys. Don't be suckered in by the dark side. The dark side will try to convince you that the light side is the dark side and the dark side is the light side. And that, again, is just a simple, obvious fact if we could take a step back and look at it.
And can I just give a little piece of advice for anyone who might feel themselves caught up in this energy where they might be angry, they might want to lash out. And the quickest, most beautiful thing I think we can do to snap out of that is look at some babies, like puppies, like kittens. And I'm serious. Look at bunny rabbits. I mean, they're adorable and they will pull you up and out of that anger. And just know that it's a very real thing and we don't want to go there.
Absolutely. So as always, much love, God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.